Hi, my name is Ben from XDesign. We are the largest app development agency you've never heard of. That's my cunning slogan for that. That's working great. There's 22 of us, and we're over in Edinburgh. And as an app development company, we get a lot of clients asking us to do something innovative. So I thought I'd just take a second to say, well, what do they mean when they say innovative? And normally they mean new, as different and unique. So new, often for want of a better word, means trendy. And at the moment that means trying to crowbar AR or VR into anything. Unique is the other version of that, which means that it's not a good idea if anybody else anywhere has done it. And very, very occasionally they mean new and better. But most often what they actually mean is better because it is new, which is not the same thing. Basically, innovation is to us what make a viral video is to marketing. That sort of broad, amorphous, difficult to pin down thing that you have to do with no guidance. And what that means is we get bad briefs, and we get bad briefs for a few reasons. And one of them is because being a lowly app development company, we've not quite got that parity of esteem that our marketing consultants and even digital consultants have, or other professional services. It'd be quite unusual for a marketeer to go into their ad agency and say, this is exactly how I want my TV campaign to look, and I've drawn it up in PowerPoint, and this is what it should look like. But we get that a lot. And the other reason we get bad briefs is because people are doing something which of course they're doing, which is they're taking all the experience they have, everything that's made them successful, and they're applying it to mobile apps, which shouldn't be a bad thing. But the problem is marketing's been on the journey. It started with direct mail and TV campaigns and press and print, and yes, it went on to being web and online and SEO, and then on to social media. So professionals take all of that learning, everything that made them a professional, and then try and squeeze it into a tiny screen and make that an app. And it largely comes about from a fundamental misunderstanding, and that's that making an app is in some way your marketing campaign on a tiny screen, as opposed to what it actually is, where it's a product, it's a piece of software. In fact, if apps were called mobile software, this perhaps would work better. And that's a bigger deal than it might sound, because it's actually crippling innovations, crippling good ideas, because people aren't embracing what it is, which is a tiny computer. Desktops are essentially on a 5-year replacement cycle. Your laptop's getting replaced about every 4 years. Your phone will have been replaced 2 or 3 times in that cycle. Your phone is now almost certainly the most sophisticated computing device that you or your customers own. And that's the process that we need to try and get our clients to understand to make something successful. And the way that we start to do that is by using personas. We can actually go backwards to go forwards. This is not a new idea. Alan Cooper here, who's the father of Visual Basic, for those of you who understand that, wrote a book all the way back in the last millennium, which is the About Face book on interactive design. He started talking about personas, and that was popularised in some of the inmates of Running Asylum. And that's something that we use to control innovation and drive it and find out when it's appropriate. And the way that we do that is, well, a persona is a synthesized set of characteristics for typical, not average users. And that not very catchy sentence I'm going to break down further, slightly painfully here. So let's take synthesized. That means we're going to make it up. And you have to start becoming okay with that. I can move this of the bar from science all the way up to a higher percentage. And we do. We look at the analytics. We look at roundtable research. We conduct roundtable research. We have our own bespoke piece of mobile user behavior research that we do as well. But we'll always just be moving the margin. We're always going to be using a bit of artistry to decide that. And one of the reasons that's okay is because we're almost certainly doing this because we're starting on a new endeavour. And as per the Henry Ford quote there, people don't necessarily know what they want. We're having to extrapolate what that is and form a base from that. It will always be a mixture of science and artistry. The other main part is that we're not trying to create an average user, not a super user. We're trying to create a set of typical potential users from there. And we're going to use them to challenge things as we move forward. And we build that out by characteristics. Though, even when we're building that, there's no point having that as a completely vague set of terms. So we start, first of all, with a fundamental question. And that fundamental question could be something as simple as, why are they going to use this app, through to how will they lose weight? Why are they worried about money? And that's going to be the background to everything that we do. What I'm going to go through very quickly now, this is the speed version of this, and this is not my attempt to get you to learn how to do this, but to convince you perhaps that it is something that you might want to do and look at. So the way that I do this, that we do at XDesign for everybody, is we do name and picture and demographics as a background painting. A lot of digital design is based around putting demography at its core, as if that is the most important thing that has happened. But that's going to be the background to what we do. And then I follow a method which is about creating what are called paired lenses, which is a very grand term of essentially just asking questions with similar sounding results to try and interrogate different ideas. So roles and responsibilities, how does someone identify themselves versus which part of the process do they think of as mine? Then there's goals and tasks, what do I want to happen and what steps do I have to take? There's motivations and needs, which is the wrong slide clearly, because it's the same as the last one. But motivations and needs are what brought me to this point and what do I feel like I have to do? And there's a behavioural narrative in digital context, which is the wheres and whens of everything that's above that. And then on what platforms, on what, whether that's digital platforms or physical platforms from there. And all of that really builds out a set of personas. Once you've built that set out and you move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, what you'll start to see is a pattern forming there. And there isn't time to talk about things like graduating personas or anti-personas or the things that when something's not for someone, but you'll end up with this depth that you'll start to erase, because what we should apply to this afterwards are what we call challenge statements. So once you've built up your personas, you should set a challenge inside of each of those. So if you were doing something about banking or pensions or saying something that you want people to save money, you might have one challenge statement which is, I want to save money, but at the end of the month there never seems to be enough. And a different challenge statement might be that I have enough money to save, but the interest rates are never high enough to make it worthwhile, so I stuff it in my mattress. And these are the sorts of things that we might have. And what that does is it lets us take the feature set that we're given, that PowerPoint that the customer said to us and said, this is what we think it should be, and we start to be able to challenge that. And we're able to challenge that around 3 pillars of what makes a successful app. Utility, because it's a sexy word, utility, and everybody likes some of that. Basically what it means though, it has to do something better, faster, or easier than what's gone before. It has to be instant, there has to be an element of immediacy about it, and sharing. And a lot of people think that means social media, but actually it's much more prosaic than that. It often means just, where's data going to come from and where's it going to go? And we use those pillars against those people to say, this is what I think you should do. You shouldn't do what you're thinking you should do. You should do it this way, and here's why. And actually, the reason for doing that is quite important, because the people that we're dealing with often, this might be their first endeavour into something different. We're essentially saying everything that you know isn't necessarily right to this. You've got to come on this journey with us from there. And that's quite a brave thing for people to do. And they need to be able to have a set of understandings that they're able to take to other people. And that means often being able to take something up the chain and essentially get it signed off. So right away we're saying, here's this group of people, this is what we're building it for. And that actually ties in with Agile relatively well, because when you have not fixed requirements, so you're unsure of what you want, being able to have a ground, a sort of base understanding of who it is and what they want is incredibly important. Because it doesn't just get shared to the clients, it also gets shared to the developers later on as well. So the developers know now not just what they have to do, but why they're doing it and who they're doing it for. And it leads directly into building better customer stories, because you actually are doing them for someone that you can see. It also protects against something that Alan Cooper called the elastic user. And the elastic user is that bastard who shows up halfway through your project and says, maybe it should be more yellow. And you go, and you have this rogues gallery now and go, But do these guys think it should be more yellow? And hopefully he'll go, no. And that lets you carry on. It lets you, it lets people protect themselves. And protecting themselves is quite important, because we talk about clients needing weapons or armor, because it's quite a competitive market. They're doing something new, saying they're going to do this app, we're going to have something that we've not done before. We want to be able to let people know that there's some groups of people who need weapons. They need to be able to say, this is why we should do this is what's going to make us successful. This group of people we think wants this. And other groups of people who may be being forced into doing something want a set of armor to say, this is why that's okay for me to do that. That's why this is okay for us to do it, because here's the rationale for it. And it also lets people do role play better. So we do a lot of sketching workshops and things like that to try and leverage the people inside of an organization's knowledge. And that a really successful way of getting introverts, which a lot of developers are, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but also other people to think differently. It's the extroverts to make themselves not just do their own opinions, it's to make them play the role of a persona. And because of that exists, it lets us do things in a very quick and agile way often as well. So I guess the point when we're talking about this sort of theme of innovation there is that it's very easy to talk about innovating for innovation's sake, but in actual fact you have to innovate for someone. You have to innovate for Pete's sake. Yeah, and in a pun. Your high fives. Your high fives. Good. Thank you very much.